Welcome back to Spank Ranch Garage. It's Saturday night, and that means we're in for another Side Job Saturday. Tonight I've got a machining challenge that is going to be quite interesting, but I think we'll be able to pull this off. So here we have this stub on a bulldozer frame. It'll be about 2 3/4 of an inch diameter, and it's about, 2.5 inches long. This stub was heavily damaged, so I've been spending time running beads of weld around this to build this all back up. Now we need to machine it round again. So the first way you could do this would be to put this in a lathe that will spin a 40-inch part, which just ain't gonna happen, and this thing is like 350 pounds, way too heavy. Your other option, which I considered, is to gouge out all of the welds on this and put this backing plate with the stub in the lathe and turn that. Unfortunately, this exceeds the 12-inch swing that my little Atlas Craftsman lathe will handle. So I guess my third and last option is to actually do this on the mill. And I've never done an outer diameter bore on the mill. I don't have the tooling to do so, but I think we're gonna make the tooling to do this. I've already had this part up on the mill table for a different operation. I know that I can make all that happen, so I think we need to build a boring head to cut this outer diameter down. So the tool that I would probably use for this, and basically it's an adjustable cutting head here. Using this screw, there's a dovetail portion that allows you to change the diameter that you are cutting. All right, so see how as I tighten that, this whole thing shifts left and right. You have multiple positions to put the actual tool in. This is a pretty good boring bar. I've used the crap out of this thing. I use it for everything. And essentially you could have your tool here for very small diameters, here for slightly larger diameters, and then when I need to do a big diameter, I'll plug the tool into the end and run the mill in reverse and essentially cut like this. And you can make precision adjustments here to set the bore to exactly what you want. The easiest thing would be to flip your cutting tool around and just run this boring bar just like this to bring this down to size. Unfortunately, this little boring bar doesn't have enough travel to do that, and most of them don't. I want to be able to cut a 3-inch OD part, so this is going to take some work to adapt this. This is actually an official Bridgeport brand boring head, #1, so it's a small one. But it's all I have, and it's a Saturday night. Here's what we're always stuck doing, is figuring out ways to make things happen with the wrong tools. I don't know if anyone makes a commercial adapter to do what I want to do here, but I think I have some ideas to make this happen on our own. My thoughts are, I got this piece of, I don't know what this is, 3/4 steel. I'm gonna rip a slot down the middle of this that is a perfect fit to the outside of the square on this boring bar. And then I got an old smashed broken boring bar here, but it's got a precision ground 3/8 shank on it. I will put the shank into here. I will also have a matching hole on this side, put the shank into that and weld it. And that way this thing centers itself left and right. But all the torque is managed by the sides of this plate here. So basically this would drop on, you tighten the set screw to hold this thing on, and now this is effectively one piece. Now I can bore holes throughout the length of this and put in a much bigger boring bar. I think this is a 5/8 boring bar, carbide tip. Put that through here, pinch it in there with a bolt. This thing moves about 330 thousandths, so that's, 660 thousandths diameter of flexibility in this cutter. So if I have one of these holes every now and again, I should be able to reach the size I need, hopefully. I do have to be smart about that though. I don't want to land between, lean between holes here, so I gotta do some thinking on that. But let's get machining. All right, vise is squared up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It's just about 17 full turns. So we'll come in 8.5. So that's centered, even though that's not physically centered, that's center of adjustment. Now we got to figure out our positioning here. I kind of want to keep this like a little fly weighted for balance, and maybe even fly weighted a little bit on the conservative side. So I'm going to have a pretty big tool in here. That's got some mass to it as well, so it would probably behoove me to leave a little more ass on this side if I'm going to mount the tool over here. Quite. Maybe there's a burr. I'll have to deburr that to see. Oh yeah, baby. Doesn't get any better than that. Beautiful. Very snug fit. I want to actually be able to run it on either pin in either orientation, and that's going to give me a lot of flexibility in what I'm able to do here. So like, you know, these are 3/4 of an inch apart, and this thing travels, we said 0.33 inches or whatever. So you can basically be in the center hole, run this thing all the way out, and then bring it all the way back, hop to the next hole, run it all the way out. It's like splitting gears almost. So that's the plan here. That fits really good. Just need to make it longer and make it so it'll fit both of these holes. Boys, look at this fitment here. There is not a smidge of extra space. Hey, this thing was warm and this was cold, this wouldn't go together. Looks like it'll make it to swing this thing any configuration of holes in any direction to cut diameters that I please. I need to take it deeper. I'm gonna pretty much double the depth of this just to get even more surface engagement here. Preferably not enough that I cover these set screws though, so I need to take a measurement and figure out where that is. But that's the thought. And I am excited about this. I had one little boo-boo here. I went to grab my beer and lost track of numbers. But no harm, no foul. Very snug, it's perfect. I'm really happy with that. Better look, I got a 375 gauge pin in there. So we're at our shortest cutting diameter. It drops on, drops in, fits great. And we would go for something more medium, fits, drops nice. And if you needed something in between, you could flip it, still stay on your center post, or if you're really getting ballsy, you could move this all the way out like that, and now you're probably cutting a, I don't know, it's probably a 6-inch outer diameter there. So I think that works good. You've got your fine tune between all your different stages here. I really think we're onto something. So I put this thing in there the way I wanted it. And then I zeroed the DRO with whatever this center is from center. Now I'm going to come over 1.5 inches because I want to start with a 3-inch bore and I want to be able to come down to at least 2.5. So I'm going to come over 1.5 now and see where that lands us. I mean, the inside of my cutting edge would have to be right there. And that makes a nice line for me, exactly at 1.5 there. So that means that this tool in this orientation, if the inside of this cutter was up against that line, that would cut me a 3-inch radius, 3-inch diameter, 1.5-inch radius, and then this thing is all the way over this way, so it can go all the way this way, and hopefully bring me down below 2.5, but I will test that. So I think that's gonna be the move right there. That leaves plenty of ass over here for counterweight. I think we're gonna be in good shape. So I'm currently punching this out to 9/16. And then, you guessed it, we'll use the boring bar to bring this up to precisely 5/8. I don't have a reamer, and drilling a 5/8 hole with a bit ain't gonna be what we need. So really this needs to fit really nice in that bore as well, because the set screw isn't really made to handle any of the side loading. The bore needs to fit the bit, and then the set screw just retains it. Let's get this thing stepped up to 5/8 of an inch. Funky little tool. Wait until there's a huge piece on there flinging around. It's gonna be a good time. Oh, we're there. It's a thou or two bigger than I'd honestly like, but it's a lot better than we would have did with the drill bit. Stepped her up a little quicker than I was expecting there. And head all the way through with this tap drill, and then I will counter bore for a 1/4 20, and then we'll slit it after that. I mean, unfortunately, I got to slit it with a grinder because no slitting saw yet, but it's on the list, that's for sure, as well as a rotary table, other things to increase my capabilities out here. But we're doing what we got with what we got. I do feel that for most hobby machining, having, look at that, perfect baby, nice flat bottom, using an end mill in a chuck for the purpose of counterboring like this, I think it's acceptable. So I got the pin and the part all chamfered real nice. I'm gonna sink a lot of heat into this and build this up. That should keep that pin in its place. Burned that bad girl in with a bunch of heat. Hopefully it doesn't warp or do anything weird. Well, I'm feeling frisky. Let's round the corners on this thing. Doing the old mill lathe combo here. It's probably not recommended by professionals. We're gonna run this thing in reverse, and we are gonna feed into this lathe tool here. And it's gonna start nipping these corners. And it should just make this tool look a little more refined. That's what I'm hoping. If you ain't bleeding, you ain't trying. Fire in the hole. Okay, now like everything else, we'll use the power down feed. Well, I have to reverse the direction because we're literally going in reverse. We'll power down feed and let this thing take a cut. A nice gentle graze, perhaps, to start us off. Real gentle. Waste of time gentle, but you gotta start somewhere. Now we're making chips. Now we're moving some metal. Got a lot of deburring to do here, but that's the look I was going for. I think we are there. So start off with our 1/4-20 bolt, slide her in. Get that running down. It's about where that'll end up. And then our cutting tool. Remember, this is flipped inwards and needs to be basically on a tangent from, not really on a tangent, well, it's got to be 90 degrees to where you're cutting. We'll eyeball that for this exercise. Clamp down on this. That thing is in there wildly secure. You had a nice fit, but I did have like a thou or two of play. This clamp bolt, I did slit it with the grinder. Not proud of it, but it did the job, did a great job. Just doesn't look as good as if I had a slitting saw. But there it is. That is an outside boring adapter for a Bridgeport #1 boring head. So, is it gonna work? Oh, you're not supposed to see that. Tomorrow, start whacking some weld off this girl and see what we can make happen. That actually will be hitting some of our higher spots there, so that's actually a bit of an aggressive cut. So we wanna come this way more. Hopefully we've got enough sauce. So far, so good. Yeah, baby. We're making a round object out of a very unround object. I have chips flying all over the shop, so this is my temporary shield. It likes to ring. It's got some stiffness issues, but based on the design of it, I'm not surprised. This boring bar isn't meant to have this type of leverage on it. She looks all right. I ended up slowing it way down and getting a much better surface finish. I'm just taking really light cuts, and I'm just going to take my time on this. I have a feeling I'm going to need a lot more weld on the bottom side here, but the top side's cleaning up really nice. Bottom side here, we're going to probably need more material put on. All right, so we are down to size. You can see 180 degrees of this looks good. However, we're low here. And I'm measuring from where we are contacting with the boring bar straight across. I got like 2.69. 2.67 is our finished size. So I need to continue welding basically from this center line down. All right, so we made out pretty nice with this. Now, this is not top machinist quality work here. Right, you can see I've got pitting on the low side of this where I didn't weld enough. So what do we think of this tool? Well, let's start with the positives. It held up for the work I intended it to, and it did the job. It offers really good adjustability. You know, it was cheap. I made it myself, and I will use this again. Now let's talk about some of the downsides. One of them is stiffness, and being that this is built on a #1 boring bar, it's just, there's not a lot of steel here. This thing chatters like crazy, and as you'd kind of expect. I kind of put it right into a pretty heavy duty job. You know, cutting weld, interrupted cut, various hardnesses of weld, you know, high spots, low spots, cutting this 2 and almost 3/4 inch diameter with it. If I had to use this tool again, I would probably buy a different boring bar, something that will take indexable inserts. I'd like a much smaller radius for my cut to keep the chip load down on this tool and hopefully drop the chatter a little bit. I'm okay with taking my time, but with these boring bars that I'm using here, these are Amazon Chinese carbide boring bars that I'd use on the lathe. They work okay for that application. Here though, the geometry is not ideal for this type of operation, but it did get the job done. You can see here, we did get this thing machined down to size. I left a big shoulder down here of weld that I touched up with the grinder. But you can tell, you know, she's chattery. It was chattering the entire time. Not pleasant on the ears to use this tool. Guys, that wraps up the external boring bar adapter. Little project here, little side project that stemmed out of another job I was doing. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Would you have made it this way? Do you have any better ideas? How should I make my next one? This is a feature, or this is a capability that I would like to have in the future. I just need to perfect this design to make it a little more refined and probably improve the surface finish quite a bit. Or are there any R8 tools out there on the shelf that do this type of functionality? Let me know, post a link. I'm not aware of any, but I really didn't search that hard either. But I'm all about buying something off the shelf or making my own if I'm aware of a good design. That wraps up another one. Thanks for watching Spank Ranch Garage. I'll see you next time.